Putin announces mobilization in Ukraine, Hong Kong's quarantine ends, and HK Express pilots finally will be flying again. And yes, you heard me right from the intro. This is probably the most breaking news, so I'm gonna start with it first. Hong Kong has ended quarantine. So yes, recently Hong Kong Chief Executive, not Prime Minister, I guess, John Lee, has announced that they will be initiating a new plan in which, after arrival to Hong Kong, people will be required to monitor their health for 3 days. They will not be able to enter certain places like shopping malls and restaurants for those 3 days. But really, if you're returning home from a vacation, you're probably going to be jet-lagged, so you're going to be staying home anyways, even without COVID. And if you're a tourist, I guess that does kind of suck. But, you know. Once again, the whole jet lag thing. But after the 3 days of monitoring, there's some cool stuff to see in Hong Kong, even with COVID. All that cool stuff to see, most of it's still there. Yeah, if anyone ever does go to Hong Kong, I definitely would recommend the big triple deck ferries to Cheung Chau. Actually, there's a lot of things I could recommend about Hong Kong, but I should probably make a whole nother video on that. Stay tuned. Anyways, I will very briefly touch on the next topic, just because it's, of course, international news. This is exploring Hong Kong. But Russia has now announced a military mobilization of, if they mobilize all the people they say they are going to mobilize, that is 2 million men. Most of them, or no, probably all of them, are not motivated to fight. But, as some people may know, because of the whole fiasco in Ukraine, Russia has begun recruiting people out of prisons, as seen in this photo. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is a protester, but whatever, Google isn't so reliable on this stuff. Anyways, it is very likely that this is still gonna fail, because it'll at least take a minimum of like 4 or 5 months to mobilize all these troops. Even then, they're still doing exercises in the east of Ukraine. All the experienced soldiers are in the east of Russia, not Ukraine, doing military drills with Mongolia and China and a couple of other countries. And they are demonstrating their full skill. Meanwhile, everything that they're demonstrating is not being used in actual Ukraine. Alright, now for our last headline. So for those of you who don't know, which I'm assuming most of you don't know, HK Express is a budget airline based in, well, Hong Kong. And they have been on the ground for 3 years, taking up space at the airport. They are owned by Cathay, which is their parent company, and their current situation is actually one of the reasons I left Hong Kong. Will I ever elaborate on that? We will see. But yeah, anyways, so now with the quarantine lifting, HK Express, the budget airline version of Cathay, will be flying to areas closer to home than Cathay, which flies in, like, transcontinentally. And HK Express will fly to places like Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, and a lot of places in, like, Southeast Asia and mainland China are serviced by HK Express, but more international destinations, surprisingly, like, they have some destinations to Southeast Asia, of course, as I mentioned, in Japan, Taiwan, and Cathay actually owns more of the short routes to mainland China. I think even there was a route from, like, Hong Kong to Shenzhen, which is just across the border. But I don't know if that's just, like, maybe it's just a cargo route, because currently Cathay's biggest industry is cargo, and that's what's been sustaining them. But now, as like, traffic spikes and seats are filled out to go to Hong Kong, Cathay is going to be probably making a recovery here very soon. Anyways, Zoe Geen, and see you in the next episode.